Sorry we're late tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but it seems they have somebody at WWCR running the board who is absolutely, totally incompetent. And management will hear about it tomorrow night. I just returned from Phoenix, where I participated in Campaign USA. And tonight, you're going to hear my portion of that event, provided there's still time left in this broadcast hour to squeeze it all in. So don't go away. I'll be right back.
I want to apologize to you in advance because I'm going to make most of you very angry. Not that I want to, but because that's the way things have to be in order to deal with the truth and put people's minds in the proper perspective. Truth is relative. It's extremely elusive. And most people who believe they know the truth are dealing on the fringes of it. I learned this many years ago. Don't set out in the world thinking that you're going to instill your beliefs into people in the name of truth. A belief is a belief until it's proven. Don't set out in the world thinking that you're going to shove your religion down the throats of other people in the name of truth. Because religion is called religion because it's based upon belief of principles and ideals which cannot be proven. It is your religion. It is your right to believe it. Your beliefs are your beliefs. And you have a right to believe them. When we talk about truth, we have to talk about things that can be proven in this world. Unless we want to spend the rest of our lives and the rest of the history of this world killing each other and hurting each other and maiming each other and burning each other at the stake. All in the name of beliefs that cannot be proven, are religions that are yours because you think that everybody else should believe in your religion. You see, I'm a real American. I understand the Constitution. I understand why it was written. I understand who wrote it. And irregardless, I keep saying irregardless, it should be regardless, and people correct me on that all the time. Regardless of what you may have been taught about our forefathers, they were not all that they seem to be. For example, and this is fact, it can be proven because you can purchase this Bible today. Thomas Jefferson was not a Christian. He did not believe in the God of the Bible. He did not believe that the Bible was the divine inspiration of God. He ripped out whole sections of it, and he wrote his own Bible. Thomas Jefferson was not a Christian. Benjamin Franklin was not a Christian. He was a deist. Benjamin Franklin was an occultist. He dabbled in the occult. He had 2 common-law wives that he never married. When he went to Europe representing the United States of America, he reveled in booze and prostitutes. He was not a Christian. You'll hear people across this world, this land, and the world, tell you that he was, and tell you that our founding fathers built this nation as a Christian nation, and I'm going to tell you that's a lie. I'm also going to tell you that I'm a Christian. And I'm going to tell you that not only am I a real American, I'm a real Christian. And I'm not going to try to shove my religion down your throat. Because Jesus Christ didn't do that. He talked to those who would listen, and those who would not, he let them pass. You see, I believe that God put us here on this earth and gave us free will choice. All of us. All of us. We're also admonished, judge not, lest ye shall be judged. Yet I hear from most people who profess to believe in these things, judging other people all the time, denying them their free will choice. If you're able to shove your religion down somebody else's throat, did they make a free will choice? Does it count? No. The history of this nation and the history of the world is rife with strife and bloodshed, maimed, mutilated bodies, twisted minds, because we haven't learned how to be Americans yet, after over 200 years of history in this country. Our forefathers came here from Europe, what was called the Old World, to build a new nation, to escape from religious persecution, because in the Old World, in every state you went to, there was a state religion, and if you didn't belong to it, or you spoke against it, or you didn't want to believe in it, you were persecuted. And our forefathers knew that to escape from that, they had to establish a government that would protect the rights of all people to practice whatever religion they believed in, as long as they did not hurt the person or property of their fellow citizens. And that is the truth. And if you don't believe it or can't accept it, I would suggest that you leave right now, because the rest of this is really going to steam you up. The history of this country is that we as Americans, supposedly believing that the Constitution is our country, in toto, protecting the rights of the citizens, which are natural born with us, creator endowed, if you will, and limiting the power of government so that those rights can never be infringed. Yet, throughout the history of this country, we have violated that premise over and over and over again, and today it's being violated more than any other time in our history, because the powers that be, knowing and having practiced it throughout their history, divide, cause us to conflict with each other, hate each other, war against each other, because they understand. They've perfected this technique. You can go back through history and watch it in action when you can find a history book that tells the truth. So that while we're fighting each other, dividing the nation up into little plots and pieces, they are very quietly and very quickly placing the chains upon all of our ankles. And anyone here who thinks you're going to emerge on top And you're not going to be chained by your ankles. You better think again, because that's not true. You want to get real scared real quick? When these final conflicts come into being, the people that you see here are the only people in Phoenix who are going to resist. Look around you. These are the people that you can count on. These are the people who are interested in coming here and finding out what's really happening. These are the people who aren't worried that if they're here, somebody's going to take their picture or take down their name and they're going to get on somebody's list. These are the brave souls in Phoenix. These are the people in Phoenix who understand that this country is in trouble. These are the people in Phoenix who probably belong to militia. These are the people in Phoenix who own weapons. These are the people in Phoenix who will fight if they have to. And these are all of the people in Phoenix who will fight if they have to. And if you don't believe that, you wait and see. And you're going to see some of the people who are here get scared at the last minute, and they won't fight. And that's the truth. History proves this. When I want to know what's going to happen in the future, I look back at what happened in history. And whatever happened in history with any given population, I know there's a 99% chance that's exactly what's going to happen here with a given population. Throughout the history of this country, we've been scammed. We've been lied to. We've been deceived, and we've been manipulated. And it started many years ago, just before the Civil War. Some things happened during the Civil War that began to nibble at the sovereignty of the citizens and of the states. There were a couple of failed attempts to establish central banks, something our forefathers warned us against. Probably the greatest watershed year in the country of this history, leading to the destruction of the United States of America and the Constitution for the United States of America, was the passage in 1913 of the Federal Reserve Act. The second was the passage of the Trading with the Enemies Act and the adoption of the Emergency Powers Act in 1917 during World War I. The third was the application of this to the American people with the Declaration of Emergency and the adoption of the Trading with the Enemy Act for the bankruptcy of 1933. I'm just going to hit on the milestones because I've got a lot of talking to do here, and I've got to instill in you some principles that maybe you weren't taught or you forgot, and I'm going to make some of you very angry. And again, I want to make it clear, it's not because I want to, it's because it has to be that way. We must have an awakening, and we must have an awakening to the truth. The truth is, unless we come together as a nation and understand where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going, and who we are in the eyes of the law, nothing's going to change. Unless you have some mistaken idea that we're going to get through this without anybody being damaged, let me set that straight. I believe wholeheartedly and 100% in attempting every peaceful method to resolve the situation we find ourselves in now. But because of my intelligence background with the United States Navy and the last 20-some-odd years of research, I know that this octopus extends so far into every nook and cranny of our society that that's not going to happen, and the final conflict will come as an armed conflict between those citizens of this country who are aware, committed, and brave enough to stand up to the technology of the New World Order. Who's going to win is anybody's guess. But there are those of us who will fight nevertheless. And blood will be spilled in the streets of America. It is inevitable. It's not just me saying this, it's known by many people in this country. The next few steps on the road to our demise, and I'm sure John Nelson will, when he talks, will quote you the letter, verse, and number of the law. The man has an incredible mind and memory and has done more extensive research into the law than probably any man alive in this country, including all of the legal minds who belong to the American Bar Association, who don't know a damn thing about the Constitution. So I'm not going to quote to you the verse, letter, chapter, and number of the law. But I'm going to tell you that World War I was created as a stepping stone to world government. Now, you can probably go to your video store, and you can find some old movies there. The older, the better. Because some of these old movies show you what's going to come. Some motion pictures are attempts to get the public to agree to what's going to come. And they started literally with the inception of the movie industry. We found a reference by John Dewey in 1917, ladies and gentlemen, in New York, at a dinner for the Japanese imperial delegation headed by Viscount Ishii. And what he said was this. The first sentence out of his mouth was, quote, "Someone once told me that the best way to unite all humanity and do away with wars forever would be if we were invaded by some other species from some other planet," end quote. Now some people would say, so what? It just happens, ladies and gentlemen, that Ronald Reagan said almost the exact same words 6 times during his presidency, added on to the end of his speeches, and the speeches did not contain that sentence when they were written. At one memorable event where Mikhail Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan ended a summit meeting, they were on a podium much like this, and Ronald Reagan said that Premier Gorbachev and I have made an agreement that should the Earth be invaded by some other species from some other planet, we would unite our military forces to repel this threat. What is he talking about? When did UFOs start being sighted? The first sighting that I know of was in 1947. What happened in 1947? Several things, but something happened just before it that's even more important than that. World War II had been fought. During World War II, if you've seen the old newsreels and you are perceptive, you saw in those newsreels that they called the Allied forces the United Nations. Now this is before the United Nations was created. Supposedly, in the eyes of the public, yes. In secret, the United Nations was created before that. In 1940, H.G. Wells wrote a book called The New World Order. And you thought George Bush said it first. Hitler talked about the New World Order. We have a map drawn up in 1942 by the United States government that shows the exact partition of the world after the war ended. Exactly as it was actually partitioned, with the exact boundaries of the nation states post-World War II, was drawn up in 1942. Now, for those of you who might be members of the press and go out of here and write that Bill Cooper, conspiracy theorist, said this, this, and this, don't try it. Because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I deal with the truth, and everything I say up here I can prove. You see, it's not a conspiracy, never was. Nothing is hidden. You can find everything that I found. It's contained in treaties. It's contained in the law. It's contained in State Department documents. It's contained in the Federal Register. It's contained in the Congressional Record. It's contained in the headlines of the newspapers of the world. It's contained in books. It's contained in movies. You see, The airing by the Mercury Theater and Orson Welles of The War of the Worlds in 1938 was not an accident. It was a test of the theorem that John Dewey had proposed in 1917. Will it work? Will the population buy it? Can we put this over on them? Will they truly perceive, if we give it to them, that some other species really exists on another planet and is coming here to threaten us? And what was the answer? Yes, people jumped out of buildings. The stock market plunged. Farmers were running around the countryside with 12-gauge shotguns, and in one New England town, they shot the hell out of the water tower, thinking it was one of these extraterrestrial tripods that were coming to eat them. Today, Stanton Friedman, every time he gives a talk about the crash at Roswell, ends it with statements like, the young people are now going to see the world differently without all the national borders. And in face of the fact that extraterrestrials might be real, shouldn't humanity all come together as one? What do you think this is all about? It's about one world government. And during the history of this country, ladies and gentlemen, these things have been happening whether the Democrats or the Republicans were in power. It has never made a difference. Well, I thought there was supposed to be a control for the slide machine, but I guess there's not. It's never made a difference. We have a two-party system, and that two-party system exists for one purpose. For the same purpose that they have a two-party system in Mexico, and in England, and everywhere else. It's called the Hegelian method of political conflict resolution. In other words, we got a bunch of cattle out here that are stupid. A nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. That is the philosophy of those who are our enemies. They consider themselves to be the only truly mature minds and therefore the only ones capable of ruling. You're cattle. Stupid cattle. And me too. They include me in that, by the way. In case you think I'm being elitist, I'm not. All of us. That's the way they look at us. Oh, good. It doesn't really make any difference. I was just trying to stick to the way things ought to be. You see, if Rush was really who he said he was, why don't you hear all these things on his show? The Hegelian method is basically this. We have a population here. We want this population to go in that direction, not that direction. We will create a conflict that will push them in that direction because we will put our people at the head of both sides of the conflict. And we will engineer the outcome. Thesis, antithesis, the synthesis of the two gives them the solution. The cattle think it was a natural outcome of their efforts. And that's what the Democratic and Republican Party is all about. It doesn't matter which one of those two you vote for. Never has. It mattered back in the beginning of this country, before they had party politics. And it mattered in the beginning of this country when they did have party politics, when they had 5, 6, or 7 parties. Then it mattered. But it doesn't matter today. And there's no strong third-party challenge simply because there's no strong third party. And there is no strong third party because everybody talks about the wrong issues. or they leave a good segment of the population out of their party or their group. Or they have baggage. The Libertarian Party doesn't succeed because, one, the word libertarian connotates ancient Rome. That's what comes to mind in many people. It also is not successful because in their beginnings, the Libertarian Party came together for the main purpose of repealing the marijuana laws. And nobody has ever forgotten that. Nobody's ever forgotten it. They're perceived by intellectual Americans a bunch of eggheads who want to smoke pot. Now, I'm not trying to insult libertarians. I'm telling you the truth. And the truth will make you mad all the time because nobody wants to hear it. Everybody's hiding behind their own little agenda, ducking the truth. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you're a Jew, a black, an Oriental, a libertarian, a Democrat, or a populist. The Populist Party sprang out of the German Bund before World War II. The German Bund was the arm of the Nazi Party in the United States of America. They carry that baggage with them. They're never going to put a president in the White House. If you're a populist, you're a loser. If you're a libertarian, you're a loser. And that's the truth. If you belong to the American Party, how many people ever heard of the American Party? One person. One person. None of these parties have as their platform the restoration of the government of the United States, the Republican form of government promised to us in the Constitution, guaranteed to us in the Constitution. None of them address constitutional issues. None of them talk about the things that we're talking about here tonight. Because the Democratic and Republican Party are controlled by the enemy. If you vote Democrat or Republican, you are a loser. You may win the election and your person's going to the White House and you might open a bottle of champagne and celebrate, but down the road in a few years you're going to pay out the nose. If you had listened to my broadcast, you would have known how the election was going to turn out, and you would have known what Bob Dole was going to do with Gap, because I told the world on the hour of the time that the Republicans will win. I told the world that Gap would pass. I told the world, don't listen to these people. They're lying to you like they always lie to you, because every pre-election campaign, they tell you what you want to hear, and then when they're elected, they do what they already had planned to do, and the two are never the same, and you haven't got it through your thick head yet. You still play the game. The kid takes your marbles. You come back next Saturday with a new bag of marbles that your mommy bought you, and you play, and he takes your marbles, and next Saturday you come back with another bag of marbles, and he takes your marbles again. Why are you coming back? That's a good answer. There are a few of us around who are looking for solutions, not just problems. We know that to be responsible, we must do everything in our power to attempt every peaceful solution that can be attempted and prepare for the war that is sure to come. Not because we want war, we don't. When I left Vietnam, I made a promise to myself that I would never kill another living thing for the rest of my life. I used to love to hunt. I haven't been hunting since, because I have been on the ultimate hunt. And once you've been on the ultimate hunt, hunting holds no interest unless you're a little kooky up here. So I swore to myself I would never kill another living thing. And I find myself preparing to eventually do that, knowing that if I don't, whether or not I promise myself, my daughter's going to have a terrible future as a slave in the New World Order. And I can't permit that. How many people are there here who will honestly raise their hand and say they're here and they belong to a law enforcement organization of some kind? And I'm not trying to say you're here spying on anybody. I know there are many law enforcement personnel who consider themselves to be patriots. Are there any here? Well, they're either not here or they don't have the guts to raise their hand, one of the two, and it really doesn't make any difference. The point I want to make, because I get letters and calls from law enforcement people all the time saying, Bill, I belong to the blankety-blank police force, or I'm a member of the so-and-so SWAT team, and I'm a patriot. And my question to them right off the bat is, if you're a patriot, why are you breaking down people's doors without warrants? Why are you confiscating people's property without just compensation? Why are you searching people without reasonable cause to do so and without warrants specifically stating who, what, where, when, why, and how? Why are you serving warrants on people signed by some magistrate who doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground instead of a judge, like it's supposed to be? If you're law enforcement and you're doing these things, what does it say about the condition of the country at this present time when you're telling me that you're a patriot? What are you, afraid you're going to get fired? You're going to throw your country out the window to keep from getting fired? If you're supposed to be standing up for law and order, why are you doing these things? And I'm not trying to just pick on you. I'm trying to demonstrate a point here. And it's not just with law enforcement. It's with everybody and every segment and every institution in this country. Americans don't know what America is, and they haven't been Americans for a long time. Most Americans don't own a copy of the Constitution, haven't read it, don't know what it says in their wildest dreams, and therefore, when a part of it is destroyed or they lose a right that they never knew that they had, they don't even know that they're supposed to object. There's a lot of people in this country and in other countries devoting their entire lives to proving that the Holocaust didn't happen. Why? Because everybody has to have an enemy. And with a lot of people, the enemy has to be the Jews. For some reason. Let me tell you something. The Jews didn't create the Holocaust. And if the Holocaust didn't happen, they didn't create the myth. The United States government created it. Why did they create it? As a part of the plan to bring about the New World Order. They had to make war so despicable that there could never be another nation on the face of this earth with another nation to fight. They wanted the people to beg for a United Nations, to get rid of nation states and get rid of war. The Jewish people go along with all this because they get to be the victims, and with victims come extra rights. It's just human nature. And we need to deal with the future, so you better quit trying to deal with settling things that have already gone by. In case you didn't know it, many Jews have died fighting this country's wars. Just last week in the state of Texas, a member of the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which, by the way, published this lie, this propaganda report, armed and dangerous militias take aim at the federal government to demonize the militias. You can buy a copy at my table if there are any left. Pretending that they're doing this to protect the Jewish people. The ADL does not represent the Jewish people. They have a sordid, terrible history. They were being interviewed in the state of Texas on this report. They call the Texas Constitutional Militia a dangerous group of right-wing, gun-toting, anti-Semitic, racist terrorists. And of course, the news commentator let this go on for a while. And then they shifted scenes, and he was interviewing the head of the local Texas constitutional militia. And the first thing that he said was, "What about this? What is your answer to these accusations?" And he said, "As the leader of the Texas constitutional militia, and as a patriot Jew," and that's all that I need to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. This kind of stuff will bury itself, and this kind of stuff will also bury those who want to make the Jews our enemies. Some Jews are our enemies. Some blacks are our enemies. So are some Christians and some Lutherans and some atheists and some Catholics. Those in powerful positions who hold one mind, that they sincerely believe in their heart that for the best interest of all humanity and the best way to govern the cattle is to have one world government, to be able to enslave everybody so that they can be controlled every moment of their lives, for every 24-hour day of their lives, to create one religion so that there aren't a whole bunch of religions calling each other's names and burning each other at the stake and excluding people from whatever it is that there's going to be. And a lot of you are being sucked into these things by buying into the concept that we always have to hate each other and kill each other and chop each other up or convince each other that we don't belong. And that's a lie. People are waking up and people are coming together. We can bring this whole nation together if we try hard enough. I had a vast network of dedicated, patriotic people of all races, religions, and creeds. They gather information from all points of this nation and all around the world, and they funnel it to us for analysis and compilation. We hand it to the headquarters staff of the 2nd Continental Army of the Republic Militia, who use it in their plans hopefully so that we can win the conflict that is coming. We channel it into the hands of politicians, military officers, the heads of organizations that we know want to work to change things for the better peacefully. We have our agents in places like South Central Los Angeles, bringing black gang members off the streets into centers where they are taught the truth about the Constitution, where they're taught the truth about the slavery of their ancestors, where they have an opportunity to read my book, Behold a Pale Horse, and many other books, and watch videotapes and listen to audio tapes of speakers such as you're seeing today that will never get into South Central LA to talk to them. We have people like Anthony J. Hilder who risked his life to go down there to talk to those people. And they're now beginning to realize how they've been scammed, how they've been taught that they don't belong and the Constitution doesn't apply to them, so they're non-citizens. How they've been taught to believe that they should be victims because they're black and their ancestors were slaves, making them slaves today when they don't have to be. How the government brings in drugs and makes them available to them, and brings in drugs and guns and sells them to them so that they'll create the crime in the cities to make the middle class get on their knees and beg to have their rights taken away so that they can be secure in their homes. And when this wakes up, when you turn on that light bulb, it can never be switched off. They're becoming Americans. This could be the shining light of the world, if we let it be. if we let it be. You see, in this country, our forefathers fulfilled what I believe to be God's edict by truly saying everybody can live here, be whoever they are, practice whatever religion they want to practice in safety because we set up a government that will protect that. And make their own free will choice based upon whatever religion they believe in or don't believe in, whether they'll be saved or be damned, and it'll be God who will make the judgments on those people, not you and not me. And if you want to stop this insane division that exists within us, you'll stop doing that. So there's only one thing that you could be punished for in this country, the way our forefathers set it up, and that was for injuring the person or the property of any other person in the practice and enjoyment of your freedoms and liberties. With that in mind, a very famous person, who's also a very great patriot, and who also is a Jew, conceived the idea of a political party that could help us come together, help us put a presidential and vice presidential candidate in the White House in 1996, and restore Republican government, restore the Constitution to its rightful place as the supreme law of the land, and truly bring back America and Americans. And I'm going to tell you about that party right now. It's called the Constitution Party. It is the only party that has as its platform the Constitution of the United States of America. And the only candidates that we will run will be candidates who will swear to uphold and defend that Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and will restore Republican government. He called several people who he felt were just as patriotic and just as interested in bringing back America as he was. And I was greatly honored when he included me in that group as a founder of the Constitution Party. And I'm going to ask that you all join and get involved, and you don't have to belong to just one party. If you want to hedge your bets, you can belong to two or three. And then I'm going to tell you about a resolution that we passed in Kansas City with the members of all the disparate groups in this country who call themselves Constitutionists and all of the minor, or what you would call, third parties. The only dissenting group was the Libertarian Party, whom we came to find out has a leadership, and I don't believe this is true of all libertarians, but it is true of the leadership because they told me to my face they don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe in national borders. They don't believe in an immigration policy. They don't believe in tariffs. And believe me, folks, if you bought all the baloney they've been feeding you about GATT, you better think again. Because when they get rid of all the tariffs, excise taxes, and import taxes that used to really fund the government, where do you think that money's going to be replaced from? From your pockets. None of your income tax has gone to fund the federal government, build one road, pay one congressman, or any office worker in Washington, D.C. It goes directly to the Federal Reserve deposit to the credit of the United States Treasury to pay the interest on the debt of the United States of America. Because one thing you have to understand about loans, if you don't pay the principal, you must pay the interest. The United States government has been run on tariffs, import taxes, and excise taxes. And that's gone now. So if you think 55% is too much, ho, 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 have you got a shot coming? And if you really think that the Republican leadership isn't going to raise taxes, then I've got a sign-up sheet on my table over there for a trip to Never Never Land. We, the founders of the Constitution Party, hold that our federal government has consistently violated the Constitution of the United States. The Founding Fathers designed the United States government to serve us, the people. It was not designed so that we, the people, would serve government. We no longer wish to see Americans dependent upon or enslaved by government. Generations of Republican and Democratic administrations have made it abundantly clear that they are incapable of managing the nation's affairs competently, justly, or legally. The Constitution Party is dedicated to ensuring the unalienable right of every American to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness by defending the Constitution of the United States and making certain that it remains the law of the land. The right to one's own life requires the right to freedom and to own property in order to sustain that life, and wherever that's taken away, you see people destroyed. Therefore, the Constitution Party holds that no one has the right to dictate to anyone else how to live. If it's not forbidden by the Constitution or by the laws of your state, it is your right to do whatever you wish as long as you do not injure the person or the property of another living human being upon this earth. It's that simple. That's exactly the way this country was set up in the beginning. It's the way it's supposed to operate. It further maintains that no one holds a higher moral authority to compel anyone else to behave in a particular way. Your personal salvation is your business. Mine is mine. It is God's job to judge. And if there is no God, it doesn't make any difference anyway. But if you believe in a God, it's God's right to judge. Judge not, lest ye shall be judged. The Constitution Party maintains that each individual has the right to behave according to his or her self-determined moral principles, provided the pursuit of these principles causes no physical harm to any other person or his property.
Now, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you that we're going to continue broadcasting on satellite until the end of this program. And I'm going to ask those at WWCR who literally stole 10 minutes from the beginning of this program to allow this program to continue until it's finished. And if you don't, well, we'll deal with that tomorrow.
The Constitution Party believes that if there is no victim, there is no crime. The Constitution Party believes that no entity, including a majority of voters or citizens, may take away or violate the rights of an individual. That can only be done as proscribed by the Constitution, and it can only be done by changing the Constitution that protects those rights. The procedures are outlined within the document and are clearly understandable by anybody who wants to read it. Any law which is passed that contradicts the Constitution of the United States of America and the amendments thereto is unconstitutional, unlawful, and illegal. Accordingly, the Constitution Party calls for a reordering of national priorities. We aim to restore the right of all 50 states to be free from federal interference so they can self-govern, and for every individual American to be a sovereign citizen. Our goal is to create a truly free country, not a country where everyone says they're free and doesn't even know that they're a slave. A truly free country where people will learn to be responsible for their own welfare. Upon achieving this goal, we firmly believe, and history has proven, and specifically the history of this country and its beginnings, productivity will flower, causing business to prosper, thereby creating an atmosphere of abundance, tolerance, and compassion. And therefore, we offer the following platform to ensure our rights and those of our children. Under no circumstances does the federal government have the power to violate the rights of any individual. Under no circumstances does the federal government have the power to violate the sovereignty of the states as described in the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. Each individual should be free to do whatever he chooses with his own person or property, provided he does not physically harm the person or property of another. People who physically harm others are to be forcibly segregated from the rest of society by government. It is society, not the criminal, that should be shown leniency. The Constitution Party supports full private property rights. We reject the idea that federal government may dictate use of private property or confiscate property without full and just compensation pursuant to the limits of the Constitution, and that's happening now to 5,000 people in this nation each week who are not even charged or indicted. As a side benefit, full individual property rights will ensure a clean government. Each individual adult has the right to keep and bear arms, providing the owner has never been convicted of a violent crime involving the use of a weapon, and that's only fair. The Constitution Party advocates the maintenance of the strongest national defense force in the world. The Constitution Party does not advocate military interference in the affairs of other nations. Let them rise or fall of their own accord. Let them rise to a high standard of living or squander in filth as they so desire. If they come against the United States of America, we will squash them like a bug. But if they do not, we will leave them alone. Very simple. The Constitution Party further believes that the United States should protect its sovereignty by maintaining full control over its own defense systems and not turning them over to the United Nations. We advocate full financial freedom. We believe that individuals have the right to keep all money or property they have earned to provide for themselves and their families. The Constitution Party believes it is not government's business to know how much money you earn, where your money or property is kept, or to require you to keep records on its behalf. Accordingly, it believes that government has no right to use any of its agencies to intimidate people into revealing how much money they have or earn with threats of jail terms and property seizures. Government has no right to force an individual to report how much money he or she deposits or withdraws from a bank, and so on and so forth. And I'm running out of time. You can pick up a copy of this at our table. If we're out of these, you can put your name and address on a list. I will send you a copy. We hope that you will join us. And for everybody who keeps saying there's no proof of all of this, it's just a bunch of conspiracy lies and conspiracy theorist fantasies, I have spent my life gathering the proof. Nothing is aired on the hour of the time that cannot be proven, and I've said nothing tonight that I have not proved or cannot be proven, or that John Nelson or Dr. Gene Schroeder cannot or will not prove in the next 2 hours.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of my talk in Phoenix, Arizona. I want to thank those at WWCR who allowed us to go past the end of the hour because of the time we lost at the beginning of the hour. This was an important broadcast. Good night, and God bless you all.